Okay, imagine this. You're in, say, a workshop, maybe a meeting, could even be just a social thing, right? And someone throws out that icebreaker question. What do you wish your parents and teachers had understood about you as a kid, about your learning, your communication? Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Maybe prompts a nice memory, a story about that one teacher who really got you. But what if for some people that question isn't warm or nostalgic at all? What if it's actually, well, quite painful? A sharp reminder of just being constantly misunderstood. Today we're doing a deep dive into this really powerful piece. It's called The Unfortunate Icebreaker, written by Jaime Hoerricks, PhD. And it doesn't just make you question assumptions about learning, it kind of challenges how we even spot intelligence.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, how this seemingly harmless question can actually rip the lid off some really deep systemic problems in how we educate kids. It really forces us to look at how our systems are often, maybe unconsciously, built for just one type of learner and how that leaves others behind. So this deep dive will really explore what it means to be a Gestalt language processor, how these kids are so often missed in school, and frankly, the huge cost of not seeing them for who they are.
Right, so our mission today is pretty clear. Let's try to understand these different ways people communicate, the real challenges they run into, and maybe most importantly, what does it actually look like when we see them and we support them properly? Prepare for some moments that might really make you rethink things. Okay, so let's start with the author's own experience. It's quite raw. When that icebreaker question comes up, it doesn't spark gratitude for her, no fond memories. Instead, she says her Gestalt mind is already moving backwards, sideways, inwards. It's not abstract thought. It's a feeling, a physical memory. She talks about smelling old carpet, that chalk dust taste in her throat, the buzz of fluorescent lights feeling almost, well, hostile. It's like a snapshot of feeling totally out of step. And she explains that her words, her attempts to communicate, they were just dismissed. Why? Because they arrived in scripts. Her learning style, labeled resistance. Her quietness, seen as a lack. So that first unfiltered answer that bubbles up from that memory, it's, I wish they had known what it does to a body to be perpetually misunderstood. Wow.
That hits hard. And it immediately brings up a really critical point she makes. Who are these icebreakers even for? She points out they often assume things like, whiteness, safety, possibility, like we're all showing up as the best and brightest from supportive homes, ready with our charming stories.
Right, like a level playing field that isn't actually level for everyone.
Exactly. That framing just automatically excludes so many people. People like the author feel instantly marked out. Their whole experience just doesn't fit the expected narrative. It's a really sharp critique of those, unexamined norms we often take for granted.
Okay, so the system misunderstands how GLPs, these Gestalt language processors, communicate. That seems clear. But you mentioned this idea of scripts as language. Can you unpack that a bit? What are these scripts?
Sure. So the author calls herself a child of scripts, and she doesn't mean just randomly repeating things. She means absorbing whole lines from movies, bits of dialogue, maybe advertising jingles, song lyrics.
Stuff she heard around her.
Precisely. And the key thing is, this wasn't just mimicry. She says they lodged itself in her nervous system and surfaced when needed. Think of them like pre-packaged units of meaning, little building blocks of language she could grab and use. Sometimes they fit perfectly, like uncannily well. Other times, maybe just an approximation. But it was always, always communication for her.
Okay, so not just random noise. It's meaningful.
Absolutely. And connecting this to the bigger picture, it points to a really fundamental difference in how language develops. Most of us think of analytic processors, right? They break language down, sounds, words, grammar, and build sentences up piece by piece.
Yeah, that's the standard model we learn about.
But Gestalt language processors often start the other way around. They grab these larger chunks, these scripts first. Then over time, they learn to break them down, mix and match parts, and eventually use them more flexibly. It's more holistic, top-down, and it's just misunderstood.
And the way this different style was seen, well, it's heartbreaking. Teachers saw quiet, delayed, maybe behind. Peers just thought she was odd. Her communication, which works for her, was basically invisible in classrooms set up only for those analytic processors, just completely invisible.
Yeah, and there's a deep irony there, isn't there? I mean, think about it. We teach little kids sight words, right?
Words they learn to recognize instantly as a whole.
Exactly, to give them usable packets of meaning. Yet when a Gestalt processor naturally uses their own usable packets of meaning, these scripts, as their main way of communicating, it's often dismissed.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it like that.
It's seen as just parroting or a sign they don't understand. It's like we teach one version of that method but fail to recognize it when it shows up naturally in a different form. Her own survival mode was seen as deficient.
Okay, so the icebreaker highlights a flawed assumption. The misunderstanding of scripts shows the communication gap. But then the author zooms out to the whole system, this institutional blindness.
Right. And this is where she brings in something called the power threat meaning framework. It's this really useful lens, shifting the question. Instead of asking, what's wrong with this student? It makes us ask, okay, what has happened to this person in this environment? How did it affect them? And what sense are they making of it all?
So it turns the focus back onto the environment, the system.
Precisely. It helps us see the institutional blindness, the ways the system itself fails, rather than just blaming the individual child. And this blindness, it showed up on her report cards. Labels like bright but lazy, capable but unfocused, quiet but resistant. You know the type.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
The system demanded everyone fit one mold, one way of learning and showing it. It never really stopped to ask, hey, maybe our mold is the problem. Maybe it's excluding people.
And this is where it gets really powerful, I think. Because she's not just looking back. She's a high school teacher now. And she sees it happening all over again. She meets kids 14, 15, 16 years old who are carrying, as she puts it, the wreckage of a decade of misunderstanding. It's like this ongoing echo.
It's incredibly sad, and she describes these kids so vividly.
Yeah, she talks about two types, often missed. The hyperlexic GLPs, kids who can read aloud beautifully, like perfect prosody, perfect rhythm.
Sounds amazing.
But the actual comprehension, the meaning behind the words, often just not there. It's like performing a script they haven't understood.
Okay.
Then there are others who maybe can't decode words well at all, but they have this huge library of scripts they use to get by, what she calls a patchwork fluency. Really clever, actually.
Wow. So completely different presentations, but both stemming from GLP.
Exactly.
That's
And both
bizarre.
types, often labeled failures by the system. And both, she says, remind her so much of herself.
And you see how both of those are actually really smart adaptations, right? Ways of coping in a system that doesn't get them. But instead of seeing that ingenuity,
They're seen as deficits.
yeah, the system wants one specific kind of analytical skill, and if it doesn't see that, it just labels the child struggling or delayed. It misses the chance to ask, okay, how are they making sense of this?
And the long-term cost of this, she says, is brutal.
Oh.
She calls it functional illiteracy disguised as adequacy. That phrase really stuck with me. It's not just about failing tests. She learned how to look competent, use maybe 1,000 key words and phrases to scrape by, to not draw negative attention.
Just enough to pass.
Right. But she admits, comprehension, the deep weaving of text into meaning, was beyond me. It's like a surface-level survival that let her graduate, sure, but didn't let her truly engage, truly learn.
And she stresses this isn't just her story, this is the common inheritance, she calls it, for GLPs in a system that just refuses to see them. Whether a kid uses scripts or maybe memorizes huge amounts of text without full understanding, they are communicating, they are learning in their own way.
But the system doesn't know how to listen.
It doesn't know how to listen exactly, or how to read those signals as valid attempts at making meaning. It's incredibly isolating for the student, and it's a systemic issue, not an individual failing.
And the result? Predictable, really. Students leave school knowing just enough to scrape by, just enough to hide how excluded they felt, just enough so that when things inevitably fall apart later, they get blamed because the mask slipped.
It fosters survival, not thriving. They learn to blend in, but they lose their authentic way of learning, and often, their confidence takes a huge hit.
So, okay, given all this, her own past, what she sees now as a teacher, what does she wish people had known back then? What's the takeaway for us? Well, she lays out several really profound points, like she wishes they'd understood that quiet is not absence, that silence can be deep processing, not emptiness, that resistance can be communication, that acting out might actually be the only way a child knows how to say, this isn't working for me, or I don't understand.
Right, it's a signal, not just defiance.
Exactly. And crucially, back to the scripts. Scripts are not parroting, but a form of language acquisition. They're building blocks, not just empty repetition.
That's key.
She wishes they'd known that you can't force comprehension with drills. You have to nurture it by seeing the patterns the child uses to make meaning. And that literacy, it's not a single road.
Yeah, she talks about analytic processors on one path, Gestalt processors on another.
Right. Both can get to fluency, both can understand deeply, but only if both paths are actually seen, acknowledged, valued.
It's about recognizing diversity in learning.
Absolutely. And her ultimate wish, that their job wasn't seen as trying to erase my difference, but to build a bridge to it. That phrase, build a bridge, is so powerful.
It really is. And it raises that urgent question for education now. How do we build those bridges? In her own classroom, she actively looks for the signs now. The kid repeating movie lines, the one humming jingles, the student who offers a whole phrase that seems slightly off topic but connects to a bigger feeling or idea.
So she's tuned in differently.
She's tuned in. She sees them not as mistakes or quirks, but as signals, signs of a Gestalt processor in the room.
And she says, once you know what to look for.
They're easy to spot. Yeah. And then you can teach differently. You can scaffold literacy, numeracy, everything, starting with those scripts as valid points. You help expand from there into more flexible language. You show them their way of processing isn't failure, it's just a different form.
Meeting them where they are.
Exactly. Validating their reality first, then guiding. Not forcing them into a mold that just causes pain and struggle.
But, and this is the tough part, she says the system overall is still not looking.
Still largely invisible.
Yeah. GLPs remain mostly invisible in English-speaking education systems. Teacher training barely mentions them, if at all. Curricula, not built for them. Assessments, they penalize them. Interventions, often try to fix them into an analytic model that just doesn't fit.
It's like they're ghosts in the machine, as she puts it.
Present, but unseen. Their needs ignored, their potential often untapped.
Which is why she writes, right, to offer this testimony.
Yes. To reach teachers, parents, anyone who works with kids, to challenge that default frame of education that just assumes the analytic way is the only way or the best way. Her wish, looking back and looking forward, is quite simple but profound. That adults had just paused long enough to hear what I was actually saying, not what they expected to hear. That they had seen my scripts as bridges, not blocks. That they had understood literacy as a landscape with more than one path.
Bridges, not blocks. That says it all.
So today's deep dive into the unfortunate icebreaker has really, I think, shown the huge impact of not recognizing these diverse learning styles, especially for Gestalt language processors. We've seen how scripts are language, how silence can be full of meaning, and how just systemic blindness can have really devastating effects.
Yeah, and understanding this, it's not just for teachers, is it? It's really for all of us. It's about having more empathy for how different people process the world, how they communicate. Challenging our own, maybe narrow ideas about what smart looks like.
Right, recognizing that understanding can show up in lots of different ways.
Absolutely. It pushes us to value neurodiversity more and just build kinder, more inclusive spaces everywhere.
And it certainly reminds us that an icebreaker question might seem trivial, but for some, the real answer is deep, complicated, and yeah, sometimes heartbreaking. It definitely makes you want to listen more carefully.
Definitely. So maybe here's a thought to leave you with, something to chew on. If our schools or workplaces, even just our everyday chats, are often built around one dominant way of thinking and talking, what are we missing? What incredible ideas, what unique talents, what different kinds of brilliance are passing us by just because we haven't learned how to see them or maybe how to listen for them and how to build those crucial bridges?